So labs, like they could eat an entire bag of food. Like I don't know that they would stop. Right? Like they'll just keep going. And they look at you like, I'm starving. Maybe try to explain that from a medical point of view. Like, because us as humans, I think we want to give it to them because they're like, well, they're so hungry and they'll love me more if I feed them more. Hi, I'm Debbie Cracker, the Executive Director of the Dog Alliance.
Hi, I'm Dr. Adriana Mendoza, Medical Director at Firehouse Animal Health Center in Leander.
But why don't they have an off switch?
There isn't always a reason. Sometimes you'll have those dogs that act like they're never going to get another meal, so they're always going to have that drive to eat. However, we know they're not starving. We know that they're full based on the recommendations of that particular pet, whether they're puppies and you're looking on the back of the bag and dividing those meals appropriately based on their weight, or as they get older, tapering back to the needs of that pet based on what you and your veterinarian discuss. We know that we're feeding them enough. So it's trying to find other ways to divert their attention. So play, that'll exercise them as well. Enrichment toys, like we mentioned for our pups, even doing that into adulthood. Again, getting their mind off that there has to be food in that bowl. The other thing that we try and also promote as young puppies is not letting them beg at the dinner table, because it's going to be so much harder as adults to get them, if they didn't start off, having their place away from the dinner table. It's going to be much harder as adults to get them to stop doing that, and much harder for us as humans to say no to those gorgeous brown or blue or green eyes, that are begging and staring up at you.
I like to tell clients that if they feed the dog once at the table, then they have to do it right 25 times to even start to erase that in the dog's mind. They're just going to keep trying.
Absolutely.
So just don't start it.
There you go.
Right? Just don't do it.
Purina actually did a 14-year lifespan study on our Labrador Retrievers. So it's one of the longest studies from puppyhood to when they pass as senior patients, where they showed that on average, the ones that were fed lean, still healthy but lean compared to those that were allowed the full amount, lived almost 2 years longer than the ones that were fed their general full amount without being really careful with calories. They also had less problems as they got older medically, arthritis, other diseases, endocrine diseases. So it's so important that, we start off as young pups teaching our clients and students how to be feeding them in a healthy manner for the rest of their lives, so we have them as long as we possibly can.
Same as humans, right?
Absolutely.
We live longer and we're healthier if we're leaner.
Starting from puppies, I'm oftentimes, these guys are still unspayed, unneutered, young growing puppies with a healthy metabolism. I still will have the clients follow the recommendations on the back of the bag of what they're feeding nutritionally. However, they need to be keeping up with their growth and their weight increase. And so, they're here every 3 weeks and we're monitoring their growth, making sure they're gaining good, appropriate weight. And then we change their feeding recommendations based off of, the recommendation for that weight on the puppy.
Can you explain how a pet owner would know if their dog is too heavy? I've often read that you should be able to feel the ribs just under the skin. Can you explain what that really looks like when you're trying to figure out if your dog is too heavy or not?
Yes, we have a body condition score that we use, and that is looking at the physique of your pet, and then you pair it to the number on the scale. Ideally, what we're wanting is that taper behind the rib cage, tuck underneath the rib cage, and be able to feel ribs, not see them, but feel ribs when you're running your hands down their chest. You never want to have to push in to a layer to be able to feel those ribs. That's what we're looking at for an ideal body condition. There is, in about a 40-pound dog, feeding an ounce of cheese is equivalent to like us eating 3 extra hamburgers.
Right. So for treats, we need to watch that. I know when we're training our service dogs, we take their food in the morning and we try to use their kibble for their treats, which works most of the time, except if you're somewhere that's super exciting. In which case, then if we're using high-value treats like a piece of cheese, then we have to feed them less kibble. Right?
Absolutely.
The calories at the end of the day can't exceed the recommendation.
Yeah, and I often tell my pup owners to try and get them used to healthy treats as puppies so that, if we have any problems later on with weight, or hopefully we avoid weight, well, we've got healthy options that the pup will eat, including some veggies, green beans, peas, things like that as far as options. If you get them used to them as pups, then we won't have any trouble as adults of them thinking it's a yummy treat.
Right. Oh yeah, mine go crazy for green beans and carrots.
Yeah.
So the feeding is always a challenge. I know for me personally, my dog was getting fatter and fatter and fatter, and I kept cutting the food, and she's still fat. And I, as a trainer, I'm like, how can I have a fat dog? And I kept one day I'm talking to my husband about this. I'm like, I'm so embarrassed, a trainer, and I have a fat dog. And he's like, oh, kind of like hedging. And I figure out that he eats after I go to bed at night. And he was feeding all of the extra fat and all the extra meat to my puppy after I was already asleep. So
we have to make sure all the family is on the same page with
Yes.
our feeding regimen and the healthy treats.
yes, no sneaking.
That's right. If y'all have any questions, please don't hesitate to call us or go to our website at firehouse.vet.
If you have any questions or want further information or you'd like to sign up for a class, go to our website at thedogalliance.org.